Welcome to Around the Clock. I'm your host, Yolanda Greaves. On today's show, we will be speaking with Tony Schiavi, Ashland's town manager, and we'll be speaking with him about two things. We'll be talking about a town meeting recap, as well as his last 60 days as our town manager. We also have gone out to talk with Maura Lyons, who is the drama teacher at the Ashland Middle School, to talk about their upcoming production. And of course, we have our usual Around the Town tour with some various stops, and of course, our Selectmen's Update. So stay with us on Around the Clock, and we'll give you everything and all the news that's happening here in Ashland. Welcome back to Around the Clock, and here is today's Selectmen's Update. The background's a little bit different. I'm actually doing it from Town Hall right after our meeting that happened on Wednesday, November 18th. We had another full meeting, actually went a little bit late. We started with some citizens' participation, and then we moved into the naming of a street address for Marathon Park. So now you can put in 333 Pleasant Street, and that will be the future address or the address that can be used for Marathon Park. We also had a joint meeting with the Planning Board to discuss the Affordable Housing Production Plan. That is a plan that's once it's approved by both the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board will then get forward to the state. Once it gets approved by the state, by having an affordable housing plan in place, it will help us as 40B developers try to come into town. As long as we're meeting our production rate of 5%, we can work with the 40B developers to sort of give them some guidelines and possibly even not approve their comprehensive plans. We also discussed some parking issues and a parking study that the Planning Board is deciding to do. We approved that they could move forward with that to look at parking downtown and how we can either improve parking or add some parking a little further away from downtown, but to support the downtown businesses. We did 2 appointments to the Council on Aging. We also did an appointment to the Sustainability Committee. And then we did an acceptance of a resignation, if you have not already heard, and we will be talking about this later in the show, that Tony Schiavi, our town manager, has resigned. He will be with us through the end of December, and then he has decided to run for the state senate for the Cape and Islands, which is his main home. We then had some old and new business. We had a marathon update in regards to the numbers. We had 17 people applying for 12 numbers for Ashland, so there will be a drawing of names on either Thursday or Friday of this week, and then that's the 19th or 20th of November, and then residents or employees who have applied for those numbers will be notified. We also approved a grant request. It had been submitted in time, but it had gotten lost in our paperwork for Ashland Youth Soccer. We continued a review and discussion of the charity bin bylaw. So charity bins are those bins that you see either on people's property or in parking lots, either for clothing or for books. And we have decided to create a bylaw that will direct how those bins are placed, who the approval process has to be, and how they're monitored so that they're not as the eyesore that some of them are. So that bylaw will be coming before town meeting in the spring. We also had a discussion about the Override Study Committee and an update from our 2 members who are on that committee, Steve Mitchell and Rob Shearer. And it has been decided that they're going to give us some information. We will be discussing it at our December 2nd meeting, and there most likely will be an Override Study Committee as well as Tri-Board meeting on Tuesday, December 15th. That's not the final date, but we will keep you informed as that information becomes available. We talked about the cemetery behind Federated Church. The Historical Committee is looking for our support so that when they go to CPC, the Community Preservation Committee, for some funds, we as the board have supported their request for funds to clean up and restore some of the stones that's in the oldest cemetery here in Ashland, which is next to the Federated Church. We had a review of the Downtown Summit. That was a meeting that was held back on November 5th. It was a number of boards, Board of Selectmen, Planning Board, Ashland Redevelopment Authority, Open Space, Downtown Collaborative, to discuss what is going on in downtown and how we can move forward. And there was a discussion of some of the items that might be considered low-hanging fruit that could be resolved or possibly handled within the next 3 to 6 months, talking about flowers along the railroad tracks, possibly removing the skate park. So if you have any ideas or if you have any input, please reach out to any of the members of the Board of Selectmen to let us know what you think. We also discussed bringing back committees. Back in the spring, we had a committee every meeting come and present to us what they were working on so that we could find out as the board, but also so that the community could see them, because many other boards do not have their meetings on television. So people have questions, and this way they can publicize what they're doing. We have so many volunteer boards that are doing some great work, and we want to share it with the community. A number of us are interested in the MMA conference. It's a conference, Mass Municipal Association. It's a way for us as selectmen to get some education and meet with other Board of Selectmen members and town managers to find out what else other communities are dealing with in Massachusetts. And then we had a continued discussion about 22 Elliott Street. That is the house that's across from the Warren Woods. It's on the property that's 466 Chestnut Street. The developer has offered to gift that to the town, and we just talked further how we can review how we're going to use that property, what it might look like. So we've expanded the Warren Woods Ad Hoc Committee. We're going to update their charge to include the 22 Elliott Street, as well as the property at the Warren Conference Center that was approved to purchase at town meeting, which is the Red Barn and the Silo. Then we just had a town meeting wrap-up and review, and again, there'll be more detail on that later in the show. And that was it. And we talked about some upcoming events, including the Farmers Market on November 21st, and then Thanksgiving. So that's it for the Selectmen's update, and we'll be back with more Around the Clock.
Goes deep, looking for Max. Feinberg, touchdown! Porter to Feinberg, 33 yards.
Welcome back to Around the Clock. Our guest today is Tony Schiavi, Ashland Town Manager. Tony, welcome back to Around the Clock.
Great, thank you for having me. It's glad to be here.
So we had you in on our last show, pre-town meeting, talking about what was coming up in town meeting, and we've invited you back today to talk post-town meeting. We've had town meeting. It went not too long, and we had a fairly successful night, I think, based on some of the initiatives. So talk us through what passed and what that means for the town.
Yeah, I mean, town meeting was great. We had about 126 folks that signed in for town meeting, which is a reasonably good number for a fall town meeting. We finished in about 3 hours. We had 12 articles. All 12 of them passed. We started off with some FY16 budget appropriations. There wasn't a great deal of discussion on those, and those passed, so we'll be able to make those adjustments. Most of them were related to contractual obligations, as well as cost of living adjustments for our non-union employees. But we did get authorization through that to fund our HR department, as well as increasing our finance reserve fund and some a little additional money for the school department, about $75,000. So those were the major muscle movements in that initial appropriation. We also passed our 41C.5 tax exemption for our seniors at 8.75%, which, based on what we expect the tax rate to be when the selectmen have that continued hearing in December, approximates about $514 for each of the applicants that qualifies for that particular exemption.
Now that one brought up some interesting discussion about, can Ashland raise it from, we've been doing around $500, can we raise it a little bit more? So certainly something that might need some future discussion.
Yeah, and I think they're trying to right now come up with really a matrix for everybody on what are all the different available things for seniors and other folks related to different exemptions. I think part of it is just to educate folks on what's available, what it takes to qualify, how much it is, to make sure that we're actually capturing the maximum amount of qualified residents in town that can meet different types of exemptions. So I think that'll definitely be a future discussion, I'm sure. We also allocated our free cash. Our free cash was approved by the state in late October, which was ahead of our schedule. We try to have
Yep.
it done by the 1st of November. Our free cash was just a little bit over $1 million in accordance with the new policy that the Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee just passed. We put 60% of that into our general stabilization or our rainy day fund.
Yep.
We put 10% into our OPEB stabilization fund, which is other post-employment benefits, and then we put 15% each into our capital account to support capital projects, and also our new special education stabilization fund.
Now, with the free cash coming in at $1 million, some people were saying, well, that seems like a lot of money. Based on state guidelines, where are we at when we have $1 million in free cash?
Yeah, as a rule of thumb, so that number is about 2% of our general operating budget at about $50 million. DOR recommends somewhere between 3 and 5% of free cash. Now, we estimated our revenues over 99%, which some people say, well, that's really good, you were close, but in actuality, it's almost too close for comfort because so much of what we do is based on estimates and those type of things. And then that was about $225,000, $230,000 out of the million, and the remainder were from turnbacks from departments. And again, most of that was due to what I call lapse rate. When employees leave, there's a lapse between when you bring new employees in, and so some of the salary accounts generate a little bit of a surplus
Right.
when you have vacancies while you're waiting to hire folks. And that was probably the bulk of the remaining, and then small turnbacks here and there.
Right.
So 2% is an okay number, but it really gets a little bit dicey if you get if you try to cut it even closer than that. Yeah,
Okay.
because if you go over, then it really causes some issue, and
Right.
you try not to do that.
Okay. And the next?
So the next was the Affordable Housing Trust,
Right.
And that was a request from the Affordable Housing Trust to move $450,000 from the Community Preservation Affordable Housing bucket
Right.
to them so that they can continue to work and keep as many of our affordable units on our inventory as possible. So a lot of our ownership units, primarily in the Village of the Americas, when somebody buys those as an affordable unit, a lot of that's like a starter thing, and then they get to a
Right.
point where they can afford something else, so they go to sell that, and they're capped at what they can sell that at. But if they can't sell it in a reasonable amount of time, it can then go to sort of a market rate unit. And so what the trust tries to do is buy it at that point, and then they turn around and sell it so that
Right.
we keep that affordable housing restriction on there so that we don't lose ground.
Right.
So even though it's a unit at a time, I look at it as every unit's important, and we get our money back. It's not like we're
Right.
spending money to buy a unit that we don't get back. We get it
Right.
back when we
Because
actually
it then
sell
gets
it.
resold.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And that helps keep that actually in place.
Yep.
Then we also repealed Section 281A of our local bylaws related to youth activity based on a recent Supreme Judicial Court case in Massachusetts with the city of Lynn that essentially said that when the legislature established the rules that govern where sex offenders can be, where they can live, what they can do, they looked at it as that is the guideline.
Right.
And so any communities that have bylaws that are more restrictive than that really are deemed unconstitutional, if you will. And so we ended up having to repeal that bylaw, again, to make sure that we're in compliance. Now, moving forward, my guess is the legislature will probably take another look at it to see whether there needs to be some changes there so communities can, again, help self-govern themselves
Right.
in certain areas. So we'll, that's to be
We'll
determined.
keep an eye on that to see if anything needs to happen.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And it'll be driven by the state, really,
Right,
for
right.
that. Next, we transferred approximately 15 acres of the front part of Warren Woods over to the Conservation Commission to really match it up with the 101 acres that are currently under their care, custody, and control, with about a 1 acre parcel that's going to be pulled out to be under the control of the Board of Selectmen. So that passed unanimously as
Yep.
well. So that was that one. Then we had the amending of our tobacco regulations and our
Right.
bylaw to essentially break out the fine structure that they have for the different types of violations, and then within that, for a first offense, second offense, third offense,
Right.
to make the fines sort of line up. And so you have like point of sale, you have sale to minors, those type of things are now broken out, and that, again, that passed as well.
And that's a little more clear now when they go
It
to
is.
give out their violations.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
And it helps to, I think, keep pace with some of the communities around us and
Yep.
what they're doing to try to keep tobacco products out of the hands of minors.
Minors, yeah.
And follow all of those particular rules. Let's see what else. So we had a authorization for the Board of Selectmen to consider a gift of land
Yep.
from in the Rail Transit District from Magunko LLC, approximately 6 acres of property to be used for some municipal use after the board, completes its due diligence. And again, that was part of the overall package that was in the development agreement
Right.
that the Board of Selectmen signed with the landowner some time back. And so this will allow the board to then accept that gift once all the due diligence is completed,
Right.
and it is a good decision for the
Yeah.
town. The board can act on.
I mean, a gift
on
of
that.
land that we can then possibly use for something that will help us is always a
Exactly.
positive.
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
especially with all the activity that's going to be on that particular road. So.
Right. Okay.
Also part of the Rail Transit District project is, and there's a number of projects, but one of them was the upgrading of the West Union Sewer transmission line that runs essentially from Dunkin' Donuts on 135 over through Ashland Commons on President's Row across the street, all the way down to the Chestnut Street pump station. And so part of this was for the town to be able to work with them and/or take a section of that property in order to run the sewer line through their property. There's some existing water and sewer that's through there that should have been granted easements to the town back when the project was first permitted. That never actually happened, and so part of this is housekeeping.
Sort of housekeeping to get everything in order
Right.
so we can do what we need to do.
Exactly,
Right.
and then the new piece, which again will be part of the new project.
Okay.
Yeah. And then lastly was, as people hopefully know, that Northeastern was selling the Warren Conference Center, and we've been working for a significant amount of time with the state, with Framingham State, with the town to really purchase that property to keep it in its existing form and
Right.
in the way that it looks. And so the town's part of that collaboration was to look at purchasing about an 1.5 acre piece of property around the historic barn and the silo, which is really part of that scenic view when you
Right.
drive down Chestnut Street. And so the town meeting voted to allow that to happen too, again, once we get all of our due diligence done, which I think will be a great way to preserve
Yeah.
a historic part of town.
And that we owe a great deal of thanks and gratitude to Karen Spilka, our state senator, for getting money in the budget and then in the supplemental budget and just bringing the state along to understand how important it is and
Right.
bringing Framingham State and helping us work with them to make this partnership.
Yeah, if that didn't happen, I mean, she bought $6.5 million of the
Right.
of the $8 million purchase price. If that hadn't happened, I hate to think what might have happened
Right.
because it was likely that
Right.
it was going to be bought by a private developer, and we would probably see houses
Yeah.
or some other type
Yeah.
of residential development because it is zoned residential, the entire 65 acres.
Which is interesting, you think about zoning things and you go that it's zoned residential, but it's never been a residence, it's been a farm or a
Right.
camp so you
Conference
wonder.
center, yeah, I know, yeah.
So, okay. Well, before we wrap up town meeting, any thoughts on it being your last town meeting here in Ashland?
Well, it was, town meetings are an interesting thing. It's our legislature. It's where we pass very important things, over the course of time since I've been here. I mean, part of it was to make town meeting something that people wanted to go to, wanted to take part in. You're never going to necessarily get, all 10,000 registered voters to show
Right.
up. But you want a good showing at town meeting because we do make a lot of important decisions. We just talked about
Right.
12 right
Yeah.
now. And so, I think we want to continue to do that, continue to provide a great product for the town, especially leading up to town meetings so
Right.
that, they feel well informed when they actually show up and to make, important
Right.
decisions. They feel like they know what they're doing, what they're voting on, so.
Good. Okay, well, that's our wrap-up of town meeting, and we are actually going to be back with Tony as we talk about his last 60 days and his plans moving forward. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more Around the Clock.
But on behalf of the board, I would publicly like to say thank you for all your efforts in making Ashland what it is today. You've continued to make Ashland a better place to live, help make Ashland a stronger place financially, and we want to thank you for it. It didn't come at a cost. It came at a high cost. A lot of additional time away from your family, and we appreciate that. So on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, we want to say thank you because hopefully this will be a one-night meeting. And this will be your last town meeting. So we just want to say thank you and love it. And I think you deserve it. round of applause.
Welcome back to Around the Clock. We are continuing our discussion with Town Manager Anthony Schiavi and his countdown to leaving us. It's been a short time with us. He's gotten a lot accomplished. So Tony, thoughts, where do you think you want to get to before you leave?
Well, I wish I could say that I would like to complete everything that we've started, and I had an interesting conversation with my wife, that we've had so many great accomplishments and we've completed so many, but when you're always looking to improve things, there's always something that's ongoing. And I
Right.
think for me, it's really about making sure that I leave behind, sort of a roadmap of what still needs to be done, especially the projects that I was working on. I won't say by myself, but that I was sort of chiefly
Right.
doing, whether it's the Rail Transit District, some of the other bigger projects, so that those that are here can pick those up and run with them. And it's all about, our staff is so integrated into everything we're doing. I feel, supremely confident that they'll continue to march on in the fashion that they have been, and,
Right.
and continue a lot of the great work that we started some time ago, and bring all those things to fruition, and they'll come up with new ideas and new things that need to get done. Organizations, and it's like an evolution, and they
Right.
continue to grow and expand.
Well, take us through. Let's start on this side of town, Route 126. Where does that stand? What are some of the next steps, and who do you feel you want to make sure knows what the next steps are?
So the 126 project, the project working group, which is still in existence, obviously. Matter of fact, they're meeting this Friday, again, to do continued updates. So Paula Parker is continuing to lead that group forward. Some things, when the new administration came in, they had the buyouts for the state government in terms of getting their budget in line. A lot of talent left, a lot of the departments, because you can imagine there are a lot of senior folks.
Right.
So at this point, what we're waiting for is to make sure, or to get the final comments to the 25% design from
Oh,
the different
wow.
parts of DOT, Department of Transportation.
Yeah.
I think once we have that, and they review all of that, then they'll come to town to do their public hearing. So we're behind where we wanted to be
Yeah.
with that. We thought it was going to be sometime in September,
Right.
and here we are in November. So we're continuing to try to push the rope, if you will, to make sure that we continue to make progress on that. And so Paul is doing a good job of keeping the community informed through articles and other types of media, so that they know that the project is still going forward. We had a roundtable not too long ago with the businesses on 126, again, just to make sure that they know the focus is still there. And so once that public hearing happens, we should get the go-ahead to do the 100% design.
Okay.
And so at that point, now we can get into the queue for, right now we're in planning year 2020. If we can
Right.
get the 100% design done, we really set ourselves up to be able to slide into an earlier year,
Right.
because projects are always falling off for different
Right,
reasons,
right.
whether it got too expensive, whether they ran into permitting issues,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. We want to be set up in the queue to say, oh, the Ashland project's ready. And so I think that'll sort of be the game plan moving forward for 126.
Okay. Rail Transit District.
So Rail Transit District, the apartment complex is in permitting right now.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect that, in early to mid-December, hopefully they'll have their permit through or site plan modification through the planning board,
Okay.
with the expectation that they'll be, closing on the property and be ready to break ground in, January or early February. And then, of course, the town has several major projects that it's responsible for,
Right.
so we need to continue to, advance our parts of the project related to rebuilding the MBT access road, getting the West Union Sewer Transmission Project up and running. And then I think in May, we'll be looking to bring the MWA water connection back to town meeting, since that's part of the MassWorks grant as well. So we have a big piece of that. It really is a public-private partnership
Right,
between,
right.
the landowner, the developer, and the town.
MassWorks grant, where it's the status of that. I know you've been really active making sure it stays active and stays available to us.
Yeah, we made great progress. Originally, there was a deadline in November, but we made such great progress with the developer, getting the purchase and sale agreement signed, getting the permitting started, that timeline has been extended out to the end of February.
Okay.
Again, they want to make sure that the private development work starts before they actually release public funds
Right.
for the work that we need to do. And it's the right thing to do. You want
Oh,
to make
yeah.
sure that that the private investment actually is moving forward before you invest the public funds, and I feel confident that that's well on track to happen.
Okay. I'm trying to think what else.
Yeah.
There's, it's
Well, we have
it's
solar
interesting.
projects. I mean, the solar
the solar
projects are going
projects,
on.
how are
Yeah.
those going?
So we're just, right now, DOER, the Department of Energy Resources, is reviewing the contract, if you will, with Amoresco. I think once we get that back, they'll be ready to put their special permit application in
Okay.
with the planning board to get that project going, as well
Okay.
as starting the school project. So we expect that, I think, by August or September, we should have all 3 projects, I think, pretty much completed and up and
Okay.
running if everything stays on
Good.
track. And those are important because they bring important savings
Yeah.
to the town in terms of energy, usage and what we're going to get back in terms of credits.
Right, and some of those savings we had hoped to see this year, so we won't see those in this budget then.
We're not going to see those this budget year. It took a little bit longer to get through the process for the licensing agreements and the actual power purchase agreements, but
Okay.
but we're going to be fine. I think we've got enough visibility in our budget right now to
Right.
make up for that. Some of the money we transfer to the schools as part of town meeting, I think, will help cover some of the energy costs
Okay.
that we thought we'd have savings for, but we
Right.
didn't. So.
Right.
But again, and we're looking long-term, that's a 20-year project, so
Right.
even though we're a little bit behind, the long-term benefits are certainly there.
Okay. Anything, so you mentioned the MWRA project. Where are things at with that?
So I think we're looking at bringing that to the Maytown meeting. We're letting the Water Policy Committee do a little bit more of its work to develop, either changes to our current water bylaws and/or perhaps some framework for how we would use that particular connection once it does actually get built. So the committee gets stood up, I think, a little, not necessarily late, but it got stood up in the summer. They only had a few meetings, and so they really didn't have enough time to do a lot of that work, and I think it makes sense to sort of match those up. We did make a commitment to town meeting when they approved us to make an application to the MWA that we would actually have some policy developed
Right.
around the connection, and because we didn't have that, we didn't feel bringing it to the fall town meeting was
Right.
the appropriate thing to do, so we'll do
Right,
that.
and I
in a-
know fairly recently, or about a month ago, they had gotten some really good public input, and they decided to almost go back to the beginning
Right.
to create that policy.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's good.
Any day-to-day stuff that you feel like you really need to make sure is done or on the right track? And
Yeah, I mean, we have so many things going on. We'll see what we can tie up, between now and the end of the year. Obviously, it's a holiday season too, but I think it's making sure there's a good package to hand off, once the end of December comes
Right, right.
and I move on. But
yeah. So speaking of moving on, as sad as many people are here in Ashland, you've done a great job turning many things around in town. And as we spoke on the last show, this is running for a position like this is something you wanted to do for a while. So how did this particular possibility come around? I mean,
well, it was actually totally unexpected. I mean,
Okay.
in terms of how it developed. For anybody that's worked with me and knows me, I'm not I don't job shop. You hear people in private sector sometimes say that, I have the job I have now till I find my next one. Well, that's
Right.
that's just not in my DNA to do that. And I told folks, even though I've been split up from my family for almost 3 years because
Yeah.
my wife's still working on the Cape and I'm here during the week. There's been a number of town manager and administrative jobs open on the Cape in the last 10 months. I think 5 at least. But I wasn't interested. I mean, I
Right.
love the town. I care a lot for the people. Debbie and I both feel very welcomed in the community, and we enjoy being here and taking part in everything that we're doing. So, but this is something different. It's public service is one of those things that sort of. It's in your genes, if you will.
Right.
And yes, it's something I've always, seen myself doing, and it really came as a surprise when the current state senator for the Cape and Islands, Dan Wolf, who actually lives right down the street from me, who had done 3 terms, decided not to run. And those don't come around very often
Right.
like that. And so I had a very short timeline. I mean, I think he announced sometime in late October that he wasn't going to run, and so I needed to kind of run a very quick evaluation process, not only of myself personally, but other folks that I trust
Right.
in the political environment to really give me an idea of whether they felt I was a viable candidate and all of that before I actually jumped into something like that. And I walked away from all of those conversations just so very much encouraged about that I decided that if I didn't take this opportunity now, somebody's going to get elected, and I may
Right.
never have a second chance. And I've always said, and people probably heard me say this in town, that opportunities come along, and sometimes they're fleeting,
Right.
and you have to be willing to, perhaps take some risk in things. Certainly, leaving your job and everything else to run for office. But I look at it as a higher calling, and even though you're representing a district, when you work in, whether it's in the House or the Senate, I mean, the things that you do really broadly affect the entire Commonwealth. And so,
Right.
Ashland won't be far from my mind and my heart when, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected a state senator, that, I'm sure there'll be things I'm doing that will help to benefit Ashland as well.
Right. So you've already submitted your letter of resignation to the Board of Selectmen. So what is your official last day, or when are you looking to be your last
So
day?
so that's effective on the 4th of January.
Okay.
But, where the New Year's on the 1st, which is a Friday.
Right.
Essentially when I leave on the 31st, that pretty much is my last, work
Right,
day, since
right.
the weekend will take up the bulk of
Right.
the first part of January.
And then what happens that first week in January for you?
I'll be probably going, what they say, Mach 2 with my hair on fire. Campaigning is a very intense thing. I mean, it's a big district. It's 20 towns plus the islands are part of that. So I mean, it's 170,000 people, and very widespread geographically. And you really need to get out there. The way I am is you got to get out there, meet the people, talk
Right.
to the people, from the seniors to the young working families to veterans. I mean, everything in between.
Right.
So that you really get a good appreciation for what the Cape is experiencing and some of the issues that they're dealing with. And the experience in here is, I'm sure some of those things are being experienced in towns on the
Right.
Cape as well,
Right.
whether it's not enough local aid to support core services, support for public education, inequities perhaps in Chapter 70 funding, and how that's worked out for the communities there. So we're dealing with much of those same things here in
Right.
Ashland, and I
Right.
would be willing to suspect that towns on the Cape are have the same problems.
So have you started yet on your 60-second elevator speech?
Elevator
Someone
speech?
runs into you and say, so why should I vote for you as my next state senator for Cape and Islands?
Yeah, I mean, I'm working on it. Yeah, no, I'm working on it. I mean, my philosophy is, I believe that, the state government ought to provide as much, resources to our local communities as possible. And certainly, when the economy is good like it is now, and yet even in Ashland we've seen very flat local aid, and not those increases, it just caused me to, wonder why
Right.
that is, because I think, part of our responsibility in state government is to take care of the, 351 cities and towns, and to be able to push as many of those things down to our local communities,
Right.
so that they can continue to thrive and be prosperous. And certainly the economy and job growth and job creation is important. And for the Cape, a lot of it surrounds housing, and we deal with housing issues in Ashland.
Right.
Well, the Cape is very unique in a lot of ways because of its sort of tourism industry and a lot of second homeowners that sometimes younger families are challenged with finding jobs, and once they find one, can they find housing that's affordable to
Right.
them so they can actually work and live at the same time, and do that on the Cape. So that's a challenge. I mean, our Debbie and my grandkids are 4th generation Cape Codders, and we want to make sure they have the same type of future that their parents had and their grandparents had and
Right.
their great grandparents
Right.
had. So hopefully I can affect all of that if I'm fortunate enough to be elected.
Good. Well, we wish you the best of luck. We know
Thank you.
whatever you
Yeah.
wind up doing, whoever has you, if you wind up being their senator, and I would certainly hope that you are, that they will certainly be benefiting from
Thank
your
you.
experience and your knowledge and your work ethic, because that has been great, and we've certainly been able to take advantage of that here in Ashland.
Well, great, and I
So-
will certainly miss Ashland, and I know Debbie will too, and we won't be strangers either. So
Good.
we still have
Yes,
family in the
please
area.
don't be strangers.
Yeah, and really, I mean, it's to me, and I said this early on when I got here, is that everything I've ever done is more than just a job.
Right.
And so we've developed some incredible friendships and a lot of great people that we've met, and to be part of the community, not just the town manager, but
Right.
to be part of the community and to make sure that we're giving something back to the community while we're here. So that's been probably one of the most rewardable things in
Good.
the last nearly 3 years I've been here.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming
Well,
on
thank you
Around the
very
Clock.
much, and-
If you want to come see Tony at Town Hall, he's here until December 31st. Stay with us. We will be back with more Around the Clock.
more tragedy.
We are at the Ashland Middle School, and we are speaking with Maura Lyons, who is the drama teacher here. Maura, welcome to Around the Clock.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to have you here.
Well, we're excited to be here. The middle school has been getting some action lately. We have the Ashland Community Theater using the space, and you're doing a performance. Before we get into your performance, can you tell us a little bit about you, how long you've been in Ashland, and your background?
Sure. This is only my second year in Ashland, so I'm still pretty new to everything, but I've been teaching theater since I graduated college. I went to Emerson, and before this I taught in Lawrence for a couple years, theater and dance. So I'm very happy to be here working with a new group. And while I'm not here, I still direct and choreograph around the state. So it's really nice to have a home here.
Good. And what brought you to Ashland?
What brought me to Ashland? Well, I made a change with my career. I moved from Lawrence. I decided that I wanted to work in a more suburban area, and when I made the move, it was like I was home. I grew up in a town just like Ashland, a little one further east, and yeah, it's been great so far.
Okay, and you are working with 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, and what is the play that you're doing this fall?
Our play is called Game of Tiaras, and when I describe it to people, it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I know it's going to be a hit. It's a comedy. It's almost brand new. What it is it takes Shakespeare's King Lear, but it's reimagined with his daughters as Disney princesses. And then you add a few Game of Thrones elements into it. So, you know, we are free to kill off main characters as we go along. But it's also written as a comedy and not a tragedy. So it's all very slapstick humor. And there's so many references to Disney and Shakespeare that we're having so much fun with it.
So my name is Mara, and I'm a soldier in the play. I'm actually Soldier 1. And this play is actually funny, kind of tragedy-ish. It's kind of like a 2015 version of Game of Thrones.
My name's Hannah Wood, and I'm Soldier 1, and I'm also girl. And so I really like the play because the costumes are going to be really great this year because we have a professional costume designer.
I'm Adriana Fox, and I'm playing the role of the Little Mermaid. I really like this play because, I kind of always wanted to do something with, princesses because the wardrobe is just really cool for the play. And it's just also great because, we all get so close whenever we do a play, and then we get a cast party, and it's just a great experience.
Now, did you write it or did you find this someplace?
No, I found it, so we're licensing it through Play Scripts, and the playwright's name is Don Zalidis, and he's very well known for making one-acts and full plays for middle school to high school age.
Okay, and how many students do you have in your cast?
I have 40 students in my cast. 40, plus I have a crew of about 15. And it's myself. I have an assistant director. Her name's Laura Bradshaw. She's actually a high school senior right now in their drama program. And I have students also doing sound and lighting, and there's a lot of us, but we pull together pretty well.
So when your performances are when?
We go up December 3rd. We have another show that Friday, December 4th. The show's at 7 o'clock right here in the Little Theater.
Maura, now this is your first time that we've met, and it's also your first time on Around the Clock. And I have a question that I ask all my first-time guests. And this might be easy for you because not many people know you. Is there something about you, Maura, that you are willing to share that not very many people may know?
Oh. Yeah, sure. So I have this weird trick I can do that not even many of my friends know about, actually. I can flicker my left eyelid by moving my jaw.
Okay.
And it sounds really weird, that easy to do.
Okay, we may have to
but
get
if
it
you
a little
try
bit closer
it,
to
yeah.
see this. Okay, so moving your jaw makes your left eyelid flicker.
Right.
Okay, I think we have to see this.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
May freak some people out. That's it.
Okay, well, a newest thing, tricks.
Yeah. It's a nice party trick. Sometimes it freaks people out, but it's a nice party trick.
Okay. Well, Maura, thank you so much for speaking with us, and we look forward to watching a little bit of your rehearsal and hopefully coming to see the performance.
Yes, please. Everybody, come see the performance. We've worked so hard on this, and I know everybody is going to find it hilarious.
Let's do, go back to your reign of terror and sound. Your reign
It's our ever-popular Around the Town tour. Of course, we had town meeting on Tuesday, November 17th. We had about 136 people at some point come in and participate. If you're interested, our next one will be in May, and of course there's always information as to what's going on in town and what's coming up in our next town meeting.
To make Ashland a better place to live, help make Ashland a stronger place financially, and we want to thank you for it. It didn't come at a cost, it came at a high cost. A lot of additional time away from your family, and we appreciate that. So on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, we want to say thank you, because hopefully this will be a one-night meeting, and this will be your last town meeting. So we just want to say thank you and follow, and I think you deserve a round of applause.
We made another stop at the high school, and this was for the band and chorus concert that happened on Wednesday, November 18th. It was their fall concert with a nice variety of music. Take a listen. Another stop on the Around the Town tour was the Ashland High School for the Ashland Robotics Club Robot Rodeo. It was an opportunity for people and children of all ages to go in and try out the robots. They used it as a fundraiser for their robotics club.
And see, now it's in the light.
Yeah, you can't see it from when you're...
If the video stops like playing over and over again, yeah, me.
As we head into the Thanksgiving and holiday season, we had the indoor farmers market. We had our last outdoor farmers market back in October, but as of 2 years ago, the farmers market has been doing an indoor farmers market coming on the Saturday before Thanksgiving. So we had all kinds of people stopping in at the vendors to get their fruits and their fresh vegetables and otherwise holiday gifts leading into the holiday season. Saturday was a busy time. Not only did we have the farmers market, but we also had the community church giving out their annual turkeys. If you were able to stop by and get a turkey, it's a great thing that they do for those that are less fortunate and cannot afford to purchase their own turkeys. They were able to go to the church and pick them up. On our last show, we had the opportunity to interview Joe White and Katie Shander Reynolds regarding the Ashland Community Theater production of Therapy Sessions. Well, that happened over the weekend of November 19th and 20th, and it was a great production. Therapy Sessions was different scenes about different forms of therapy, and I think we could all use a little sometimes, and let's take a look.
Should I get an appointment or something?
That would be a wonderful idea.
Okay. Hi!
Hello. yoga instructor, and I'm a certified massage therapist, and I'm a yoga therapist, and I'm an acupuncturist. Soon I will become a certified food therapist.
I'm Dr. Excuse me, why are you strutting around like this? You think this is some sort of joke? No, sir, I have an issue. You see, I can't talk to anybody unless I'm on their left side, not their right side. No left, always right. No, wait a minute, it's always right. No, wait a minute, I get it so screwed up. I have to be on your left, never right. I know what that's like, I'm never right either.
I have an idea.
You do?
Yeah, Dad, maybe you can help this man. Don't you specialize in communication issues?
Why, Jess, actually I do. You do? Yes.
Well, that's it for our Around the Town tour. Now let's take a little bit of look at some sports highlights. The football team is still playing. They had one of their best games against Abington. They beat them 41-26. They, of course, have their Thanksgiving game coming up, and that will be in Hopkinton this year. Unfortunately, they did miss going to the Super Bowls by one game, but they had a great season. So our congratulations go out to the Ashland football team and the coaches and all the players.
Open and he has it!
Well, that's it for the sports highlights in our Around the Town, but let's give you some heads up of things that are going to be coming up in Ashland, because as we head into the holiday season, there's always a great amount of stuff going on. So it starts with the Turkey Trot that's happening on Thanksgiving Day at the Ashland High School. It's starting at 7:30 in the morning. Go and walk around the track and the paths they have there. Get some exercise before you head to the Thanksgiving game in Hopkinton or before you have your friends and family together for your Thanksgiving meal. Also after Thanksgiving, we have our holiday lighting coming up on Saturday, December 5th. Santa comes in the fire truck and comes to say hello to everybody, and all the lights get lit in Montenegro Square across from the library.
Hello, Ashland! Merry Christmas! Happy holidays!
Another upcoming event is on Monday, December 7th at 6:30 at the Ashland Senior Center / Community Center. It's an opportunity for the community to come and give some feedback on goals and strategies that have been identified by the Comprehensive Plan Committee to put into the Comprehensive Plan. This is the next phase of the project that's been going on for a few years, but we're hoping that with the input from this evening that we'll be able to get the project going. So come by and give us your feedback. Then on December 8th, we have the menorah lighting that happens, and that's also down at Montenegro Square near the library and down on Main Street. Let's see, we also have a middle school play coming up. As we talked with Maura Lyons and talked about her play, that is happening on December 3rd and 4th. It's a Thursday night and a Friday night. So Hopefully you enjoyed our clip and our interview with Maura, and you get the opportunity to go and support these young actors and actresses as they start on their careers potentially in performing and getting audiences to enjoy what they're doing. Well, I think that's it for our upcoming for right now. As always, if you ever have a story that you'd like to share with Around the Clock, reach out to us here at WACA-TV, or of course you can reach us on our Facebook page, Around the Clock News for Ashland. Stay with us and we'll be right back with our closing comments. Well, believe it or not, that wraps up another Around the Clock. As we head into this holiday season, I want to first wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. It's a holiday that I really enjoy because it's really just about the food and the family and getting together and enjoying yourselves. So I wish a happy Thanksgiving to you and to your families. Thank you for watching Around the Clock. I also want to say a special thank you to Tony Schiavi, our town manager, for coming on the show again. He will be missed. But remember, he is in town until December 31st. So if you'd like, go ahead, stop in, say hello, and let him know what you're thinking. And if you want, thank him for the great work that he's done here for Ashland. I also want to thank Maura Lyons, the drama teacher up at the Ashland Middle School, for speaking with us. It's always great to meet someone new and talk with someone here in Ashland. And I hope that you get to enjoy their production. Well, that's it. Happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you in early December.